All right. Well, welcome everybody to our January 2025 Austin Tug event. My name's Chris Monahan. I'll be your MC today. Glad to have you guys here. First of all, I want to start just by wishing everybody a happy new year. You guys made 2024 just a great year. We had a ton of events. Our Austin Tableau User Group Advisory Council met yesterday. We've got a bunch of events uh, planned for you this year. So we're really looking forward to 2025. Hope you all had a great holiday. So, um, you know, as always, I like to, recognize all the folks that help put these events on month after month. That's our Tug Advisory Council. These are all the folks behind the scenes that help put together the event, this line up the speakers, send out the invitations, and also socialize it on our social media channels. So, if you are interested in participating with our advisory council, we meet every other week via Zoom for 30 minutes, and then we plan all of our events that are upcoming. If you have a knack for marketing or event planning or even social media or just want to join our community, please reach out to myself or someone on the advisory council. We'd love to have you. Again, we meet every other week via Zoom, and then once a quarter we do a team dinner. So it's great time, great bunch of folks. And again, these are the folks that work every month to put on these awesome events. So let's go ahead and talk about our agenda. We got a great event plan for you today. I'll start things off with a little bit of housekeeping, and then we have a featured speaker today, Rebecca Bronfeld, who's a senior business intelligence analyst from Staples, and she's got a great presentation around creating a dynamic landing page. So it's a very cool presentation. Can't wait for you guys to see it. And then afterwards, after the presentation, hang on tight. We're going to do our network breakout session. That's where we all meet together. If you have any questions about anything Tableau, please join this event. It's just a good way too to just meet other folks in the community. So as a reminder, this is a virtual tug. This is a live meeting. So we encourage you to turn on your cameras if you like. We'd love to see your faces. And but as always, observe Zoom etiquette. So please go on mute when our speakers are speaking. We'd love to make this more interactive. So participate in the chat window, please. We want to see your comments and questions. If you have specific questions for our speaker, please directly message Homer, and he will go ahead and collect those until the Q&A at the end. We also post all of our recordings up on our YouTube channel. So I posted the link here. So please check that out. Next month, we've got an event, another speaker coming up. This is going to be a slightly different event than we've done in the past. This is going to be a lunch and learn. Again, it's virtual, but it's going to be from noon to 1:30 here Central. And so we've got Eva Murray, who's a data career coach, and she's going to give this presentation on how to manage up what is and why it's a really smart move for your data career. So it's we do a lot of these great presentations that are not just Tableau specific, but also help folks with their data careers. So this is a very cool presentation. Definitely check it out. Again, this is a lunch and learn event, so it'll be from noon to 1:30, different from our regular times. But we will send out another invitation later with a reminder. We also have our Austin Tug quarterly event, which is our in-person event that we do once a quarter. That's coming up in March. It'll probably be that last week of March. And Celia Fryer, who's on our very own Tug Advisory Council member, will be giving a presentation there in person at the Austin Tableau office. That's downtown. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that. We usually get about, I don't know, 20 some 30 people at the event. So please check it out. In addition, we have some upcoming events. I posted the dates here. We're going to be a little bit staggered from our typical, I would say, second Tuesday of the month schedule, just for a couple months due to South by Southwest here in Austin, which is a big event for those that aren't local to Austin. So we're going to try to bypass some of that craziness downtown, and we'll go ahead and pick up on a regular schedule, a second Tuesday of every month back in May. And as a reminder, we always take July off. So it's crazy to think I'm already planning through half the year, but that's going to be our schedule coming up. Also, we have some exciting events coming up specific to Tableau. The Iron Viz qualifiers are now closed. They've been tallying all the events. There's like 191 entries, and they've narrowed it down to 10. So January 14th, they will be announcing the top 10 entries. They'll recognize those, and then they will announce the top 3 finalists who are going to be moving on to the Iron Viz Championship. And if you guys have never checked that out before, It's the coolest event I've ever seen. There's so many people there watching and cheering for all their favorite finalists and their visualizations. So it's you definitely want to see who the finalists are this year. And with that, I'd like to announce that we have Tableau Conference right around the corner. It seems like it's far away, but it'll be here in a couple months. April 15th through the 17th, we're going back to San Diego for Tableau Conference. So if you want to start making plans for that, travel plans, talking to your manager, figure out ways to go, I'd start making those plans now. It's a great event. The weather will be beautiful. Definitely hope to see you all there. And lastly, I'd like to just remind everybody that we have a Slack community. I'll go ahead and post a link in the chat so everybody can join. If you haven't joined, it's a good place just to collaborate. If you have questions, maybe about Tableau or about the community, we make announcements there too about upcoming events. So join the Slack channel just so you can get involved. All right. So with that, I'd like to announce our featured presentation today, creating a dynamic landing page with our featured speaker, Rebecca Bronfeld, who is the Senior BI Analyst over at Staples. And Rebecca's been using Tableau for over 5 years, and she's going to be sharing just the best practices around creating a dynamic landing page. So with Rebecca, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Chris. This is so exciting. Thank you for having me as well. Love to talk at these, love to, see the community and, get to know other Tableau users. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. And today I'll be talking about building a dynamic landing page. So with that, we're going to talk about what is a landing page, the difference between a static one and a dynamic one, when one should be used, the benefits and the drawbacks. Drawbacks really just meaning, is it the right decision for you to use a dynamic landing page for your use case? And then we'll dive into a demo. We'll look into the back end, into the actual workbooks, see how it was built, and then see the final product. So first off, what is a landing page? It could look like this, just as simple as having a place where users can just click on an image and it takes them right to the dashboard that they're looking for. How do we make that dynamic? Well, we'll get into the details of that, but just for this slide here, we'll just say that if you have, let's say, a customer, you want to see just in this case, the order details and the financial performance for this given customer. When you click on one of those dashboards, it will pre-filter to the customer you've selected in your landing page. Now, when to use a landing page? It could go down to user access. Do you want your users to have a one-stop shop where they can just go to this one link? They can see all the dashboards that are available to them. So that could be if you have, a sales team, a marketing team, et cetera, and you want them to be able to just go to this page, see all the dashboards that they can access, and then they would use that. That would be more of a static landing page because not all of those dashboards may necessarily be related to each other. With a dynamic view or a dynamic landing page, those would be more dashboards that have some sort of relationship to each other, but could be using different data sources. So we saw before with the customer, they all have a customer name. That would be the relationship, or you could say primary key that would allow you to have that connection when you select those. That goes into the next point, multiple dashboards with large data sets. So sometimes you don't want all of these various dashboards with various data sets to be in this one large workbook. That can be really difficult to manage as a developer with runtime, with even just downloading it. You could have an instance where if you have 10 plus dashboards, they're all using data sources that have millions of rows. That's not necessarily productive. And then future enhancements, that goes with the developing. If you're a developer and you just want to download your one dashboard and be able to make your quick adjustments and then put it back out there, it's a lot easier when it's a separate dashboard versus multiple in one large workbook. And that goes into benefits as well. It simplifies your development. It can improve your performance. It can also improve the performance of for the user as well. if a user is loading one dashboard with one data source, or if instead of multiple, that is going to improve your the performance online or on server, on cloud. In our case, it will be on Tableau Public. Some drawbacks, it could be formatting. So when I say formatting, you'll see in my demo that there will be instances where if you remove a dashboard or if you add one in, you're going to have to update your landing page. You're going to have to ensure that if you're going to allow the ability to jump from dashboards within the dashboards themselves, you'll have to ensure that all of them have the links that are necessary. And then browser limitations. I haven't come across this, but I have seen throughout some communities that there are instances where, we have users that primarily use Chrome, but if let's say you're a Mac user and you have your pop-ups blocked, that could be something that could limit your ability to use this dynamic landing page. So with building the view itself, there are a couple components. They're not overtly difficult, but we'll walk through them. We'll just have a simple background, just discuss how that was made, the images themselves in the landing page, and then the crux of it all is URL actions. So that is what makes the dynamic landing page usable. And we'll walk through how to create that, the best formatting, and also just best practice with keeping tabs on what URL actions you're using. Then we'll go through some bonus pieces. So, how do you create a link that allows a user to email you? We'll jump into that. And then just another UI tip, which I will get into shortly. So we won't get to the final result yet, but let me open up this landing page right here. So here we have the customer portal, which we saw before. And you can see here, we have a filter. This is just a simple filter where when you select it, there are various customers here. And there are other use cases with a dynamic landing page as well. Let's say you're an account owner, you have multiple accounts in your book of business, and you want to see performance for just that one specific account. That's another instance where you can use this as well. So we have order details and financial performance. Before we go into these workbooks themselves, which these are separate workbooks, or at least these images will direct you to separate workbooks, we're going to focus on these two sheets. We have a sales performance sheet and an order details sheet. When I click into this, you will see that the view is completely blank. I don't have the image in here. You could have your image of the dashboard in here. The reason I don't is because I find it a bit tedious sometimes to have to navigate your shapes and look where your shapes are in your Tableau folder on your desktop, and then change the settings here to make it a shape, find the shape in the interface here. Instead, what I do is I have this blank sheet where all I do is put in double quotes. If I were to remove these double quotes, all that would do, it would create something which we wouldn't want to see. So that just is a way to keep the view blank. I have that underneath right over here. So the reason they're blank is because we add the URL action within this blank sheet itself. And then on top, underneath that sheet, I put the icons. And the icons are simply just images that I save on my folder. Edit image. Oh, showing up. But you could see here that there's just images that I have in my folder, and there we go. You could fit it, center it, and just have that. A lot easier to swap out if you need to. So from there, how do I add the URL action? Now, you can't add it until you have this properly published. So you need to first create this landing page without the URL actions added to it, and then publish it, whether it's on server or cloud. I have it on Tableau Public. I did the same with the other dashboards I have. I publish them to where I expect them to be, and then I can access their URL. So if we go back to that page that we were looking at, I'm sure you saw at the bottom, I had these links here. So once I published all three of my dashboards, I was able to have this link where it's public.tableau.com. And the formatting for Tableau Public is app, your profile, the account name. So my first and last name is my account on Public. The viz, I put in the workbook name, which this was the original workbook name prior to me adjusting the name on Public. And then the dashboard name itself, which was order detail, which you can see here. If we go back to our actions, I will show you how that looks. So here we have two URL, and I usually just put what the purpose of the action I'm doing in front, just so it's easier to look through. Because if you have 15 dashboards, you want to know that which ones are actual URL actions here. So here we have URL sales performance, URL order detail. So if we were to edit this, you can see here I'm using a URL action. I'm having the source be the URL order detail sheet that we saw before that's blank. When I select it, I'm creating a new tab if it does not yet already exist. And I put in the URL that we saw previously. You can see here towards the end, I have a question mark and then this right here. So what this is it's actually calling the field name that we have in this workbook, and we're going to filter it based whatever it's selected, it will filter to that. The way to add that is you have here the URL, and at the end here, you would simply insert, and these are all the field options that we have in this workbook. So I had selected customer ID, and then it would automatically appear at the end of this URL. A way to test it is it gives you the URL, but if I were to click this right now, it actually won't filter to anything because customer ID is not a value within the field itself. So I did the same for sales performance. Okay, it's not opening, but that's okay. There we go. It's essentially the same, except I have it flagged to sales performance, a new tab, and I rearrange the formatting. One of the practices that I use is I just have a file, could be an Excel file or a Google Sheet, and it just lists out the dashboard name, what the dashboard's called wherever I publish it, and then the URL action that I'm using, as well as the URL that I would provide a user if I were to share it with them. And that's just an easy way to keep tabs on what URL actions you're using. And if you ever have to make an update, if you're ever moving from server to cloud, it's an easy way to just update those URL actions, or excuse me, the links themselves in the file. And then you can quickly go through each workbook and then just copy paste those URLs. So from there, I'm going to move forward to these true falses that we have here, which is one of the bonus pieces that I personally really like. All this does is when you select the dashboard here, it unclicks it. So, you know, sometimes when you click on a button in Tableau and it has that ugly blue background and you can't see what that image is anymore, this automatically removes that, so you don't have to unclick it. So the way that works is if we go into the sheet here, I have a few calculations. Let's spell true correctly. I have a true, which is just the value true. And then I have a false, which is just the value false. Simple enough. And then let's see. When we go to our actions here, and let's edit that. You're going to see we're clicking order detail, we're selecting it, and we're targeting the actual sheet, not the dashboard, or not the item in the dashboard, the actual sheet itself. And clearing the selection shows all values, meaning that we're still going to show the sheet after this action's done. And this is a filter action. We put it on selected fields, and our source field is true. our target data source, which this is all Superstore data. And then we're going to target the false. So it's a trick that I had seen. I couldn't explain exactly how this comes across, but it's extremely useful for when you have a lot of buttons in your dashboard. So another point to add is if you are using this true false switch, make sure it's in your detail on the sheet that you're using it for, otherwise it will not work. And you can see here, we have it set to true as a filter. In this way, it's always set to true, but then the action says false, so it unclicks. One final piece I'll add is this email. So sometimes you want your users to be able to reach out to a particular either developer or manager about questions on this dashboard if they run into any issues or if they just, just have general feedback. So here, I'll show you how this works. If you click this, and I don't have my email open, so it might not work right now, but let's go to the sheet and I'll show you what that looks like. I have the true false added, and I just have this simple text, questions, email us. And all I did was format it to look like you can click it. I put blue, I did italics, and I underlined it. Oh, it did open up. That's great. Let me pull this over. So when I clicked it, you could see it's sending to this specific user. It has a subject line and it has text in the body as well. So that's great that that opened up. Okay. So how do we create that? Let's go back to our actions. And let's take a look at the email action that I had set. And it's very similar to the URL actions that we have for the dashboard. So if we go to email questions, you will see that we have email selected, a new tab, and then we have this mail to. So we have the mail to, my email, the subject line, which we had seen, and then the body of the email, which is listed here. If you're curious about other ways you can use URL actions, or just try to understand what other pieces you can add into a URL and what that will do, if you simply look up on Google Tableau URL actions, there is a really helpful link that goes straight to the Tableau website that has a lot of these tips and tricks as well. So that's the landing page. But let's look at what the other dashboards or the other workbooks look like, because I have some functionality in there as well. So let's say we want to look at past week orders. So let's open that up. So we have it listed for this customer, Chuck. This is his sales by category and his order detail. You can see it's a different type of data source than sales performance, because here they're all using Superstore, but in your use case, this could be an instance where this data only has past week orders, and it's the most granular it can be, and that's why it's only the past week, because you don't want to blow up the data source. So here you can see on the top left, we have a little house, that's our homepage, and then we have these a menu option. So this homepage is the URL action to take you directly back to that landing page that we initially saw, which you can see here. I have a sheet called Home. Then I also have a sales performance and a latest orders, which we saw on the landing page as well. So if I were to open up this menu page, this is how I typically set it up. You can add images to this. You can add instead of text. It's really up to user preference or developer preference, or what's needed in your own use case. So you can see here, this is just highlighted red. This is just a standard text table. There is no action to this because we are on this dashboard. I just like to highlight this that just for consistency, because this menu is on every dashboard that is in that landing page. So it allows you to jump from different dashboards within the landing page without having to go back to that home page every single time. So this is a very similar setup where we have our actions, and we have just the URLs listed. And that's where that Excel or Google Sheets page comes in handy, because you don't have to go from different dashboards to find out what that URL action is or the URL that you want to use. So you can see here, I have my true falses so that when you click on sales performance, it doesn't highlight blue, it just unclicks itself. And then with URL, we have the same exact URL action. So this is a good place to talk about instances where you may or may not want to use URL actions, because as you can see, this could be tedious to update if you were to remove a dashboard or if you were to add one. You would have to go in every existing dashboard today and update this menu pane and update these this action in particular to either remove or add them. I do know that there are advanced solutions to this. If you are familiar with XML, you could actually open up the XML of your packaged workbook and then just copy paste into the XML itself and save it. Not everyone wants to parse through XML, so that really is a developer's preference there. I personally will just go into the workbook, make the quick adjustment, and then republish it. Okay, so now that I showed you that, I will just quickly flash the performance here. You could see it's the same exact setup where I have my home page and my menu bar, except sales performance is highlighted red because that's the dashboard we're on. So now that we have all of this context, let's look at what this actually looks like on Tableau Public. This is the fun part. So we have our landing page here, right? Let's change this over to Sadie. We want to see Sadie's, let's see, this refreshes. We want to see Sadie's past week orders and her performance over time. So let's go to order detail. If we click that, and I'm going to go back to this just to show you that this unclicked, you saw that blue that flashed for a moment. That's the true false parameter. When you go here, it's automatically filtered to Sadie. So you don't have to have a loading time where you're loading all of the data for the dashboard. Instead, it's pre-filtered to Sadie. You can see the order details. Well, that's great. Now we want to go see her sales performance. Well, let's click on that. And we have our sales performance for Sadie. Now, let's say we want to switch to Fred. And we don't want to have to go back to the homepage to switch to Fred. So let's click on that. We can do it in this dashboard itself. So now we're on Fred, and we actually want to go back to the homepage. We changed our mind. We want to see what other options there we can click on for Fred. Like we forgot what dashboards were available. So you can see it's already pre-filtered to Fred. So it's just an easy way to just have it pre-filtered. I will add that in this example, we only used one filter, and you can see here, actually, let me flash this. This is how it looks when pre-filtered to Fred. I wouldn't worry about spaces. I know that that sometimes is a question that comes up. URLs typically just flag it as %20 for a space, or depending on the browser, I'm not quite sure. But I haven't run into issues where there are spaces in the actual field value or the value of the field. But you can see it is filtered to customer ID. But yeah, our example, we used one filter. You could use multiple filters here, as long as they are a filter that has a relationship across all the data sources that are relevant to this portal. That's fine. You can also use parameters if those parameters are consistent across all dashboards. So there's a lot of flexibility and creativity that could be put into URL actions. But it really depends on your use case. It depends on how many dashboards you have, if it's worth putting in the legwork to create this dynamic process. Those are all questions that you would have to think about before going this route. So let's see. And if there's any, yeah, and I think that's everything I wanted to cover. I'm I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. Thank you for listening, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Well, thank you, Rebecca. That was awesome. Yeah, I did have a question or two. I guess you mentioned well in this particular configuration you have here, when you have to add a new dashboard, where are the points that you have to maintain typically in the design?
So a few things to keep in mind if you add a dashboard is you'll have to update your background on your landing page to just have another icon. You would have to update the menu on the dashboards that are within your landing page, and then just update your Excel file that just stores all of your URLs to just add a row for this new dashboard. And just as a reminder, you would have to publish this dashboard before you could get what that URL is.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Um, how often do you get a lot of requests to think like update, or have you like in your implementations of this, do you get a lot of requests to frequently update or
No, I haven't had any questions. I mean, when this first rolled out, before we used the dynamic landing page, I had a workbook that had around 15 dashboards within it. It was just, we just kept having more and more use cases for this uh, dashboard or for this workbook. So we figured
yeah?
we should split it up. So that was a lift that we had decided to do. And once I walk through how it works, I haven't had a lot of user issue or user difficulty. Everyone seemed to just use it as normal. I will say just ensure that on the back end, depending on if who is in charge of creating the data that supports this, your dashboards, whether it's yourself or someone else, to just communicate that there has to be consistency with what
Mm,
you decide to use for your URL action. For an example, if you have account names, make sure that the account names are all uppercase, or think about case sensitive instances. If you're using SKU, make sure the SKUs are X amount of digits at all times. Make sure you have leading zeros for them, because if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, those won't align when you click on the dashboard.
gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. Very cool. Homer, do we have any questions from the community?
Yeah, we have one, and I had one. Uh, the question from Pratrishka, uh, is this feature home and URL available in Tableau Public?
Is this feature on Tableau Public? Yeah, I mean, you can, I'm using Tableau Public to show these URL actions. So if you just go to my page, which I believe is flagged on the event page, you could download this and see how the URL actions work themselves. This is URL actions can be used if you have Tableau Server, if you have Tableau Cloud. It is a function that works across all three. I haven't used it in any other instance aside from that.
Do you ever have issues with your actions working in some browsers, but not in others? Have you gotten any feedback from your users about that?
I I haven't had any issues. However, I think it is important to be mindful of uh, if your users are using drastically different types of machines or websites, not websites, browsers. Uh, I believe most of my users primarily use Chrome or Firefox, and they haven't run into any issues. I do know that sometimes Mac has pre-built-in pop-up blockers where it
Mm,
sometimes may block a pop-up, which this could be included. But as long as you are aware of those settings, it should not be a drawback.
All right. And have you gotten a suggestion or thought about like enhancing um, the selection box that you have to a multi-select so that like you could have two accounts on the same screen by putting a checkbox on the list and you check which ones you want to see and then it'll overlay the line charts and maybe even add a sum of those?
Yeah, I believe you can multi-select up to a certain point. I don't believe that's a limitation with URL actions. I've only used a single select in my use case, only because we want to just look at one customer, one account owner at a time for our purposes, but I believe you can multi-select. I think that just runs into complications of, or just something to be aware of is if that's a possibility in the other dashboards that you're using. So if you have some dashboards that you really can only select one at a time, but others you could multi-select, there will be a disconnect when you try to attempt to go from one to another.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Question just came in from Eamon. First of all, it says, great presentation. Love the email component and availability, the ability to choose dashboards without going back to the home page, which I echo that. I think that's always great when you don't have to go up and then back down. And I don't care if it's a web page or Netflix. It's nice to go sideways instead of up and down. The question is, what are your thoughts about using actual dashboards instead of images on the landing page?
Using actual dashboards as in
Yeah.
having, so the purpose of the landing page is to avoid having to have more data sources in the workbook than needed. If it has an actual dashboard in the landing page, you would have to bring in that dashboard's data source as well. So that could that would remove the need for the URL action, I would say, because if you can have that data source available in the landing page, then you can have a larger workbook that already just has the dashboard implemented. And then
But
the reason I
it could
use,
take more time to load, right?
yes, it could increase your loading time. Like I said, I used to have a workbook that had 15 different dashboards. It was quite tedious to just open that workbook because every data source was thousands, if not millions of rows.
Wow.
One other piece that I'll just criticize for URL actions is, I know in my example, you noticed that different tabs opened when you had to select. So that is one setback with URL actions is I've noticed that you will end up with multiple tabs on your browser when you're sifting through the dashboards. I will say that recently, and I haven't yet come to a final conclusion on this, but I have seen some Tableau users experimenting with the URL actions to keep each click on the same tab. So you would only have that one tab at all times. And once I get that, that is definitely an enhancement that I will be adding so that users don't have to have multiple tabs on their browser.
Very cool.
Okay. Another question just came in from Pratiksha. Um, he asks, can we integrate multiple dashboards using the link feature? And if so, for each of these separate dashboards, we could just use the URL action to provide multiple links to different dashboards. Or are we bringing all the dashboards together in one page?
So is the question, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it seems similar to the last question we just had, but I guess maybe the question is asked, can we maybe just have links instead? Was that it, or instead of images? I don't know.
It is possible to add those links to your dashboard. You can add links to tooltips. You can add links to just the page itself. It doesn't have to be images. That's really just formatting preferences at that point. How you choose to show your links for the users. If you wanted to just have the links without pre-filtering, that is an option too. That doesn't require URL actions. That would just be, well, it would require URL actions, but it wouldn't require the component where you customize the filters that I showed at the end of the URL. But There's a lot that can be done with it. There's a lot of creativity that can be. This is just the surface level capability of this action. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, no, it's very cool, very cool. I think, like you said, I mean, this gives sort of a art of the possible, right? And then from there, like I can see many different ways of maybe evolving it using maybe dynamic zone availability or something, right? To like have different views or there's all sorts of stuff you can do with it. So it's a very, very cool use case. Um, Rebecca, thank you so much for helping us kick off 2025. This is a fantastic presentation. I appreciate you taking the time and meeting with us. Hope you're staying warm up there in Boston. So everybody, let's give Rebecca a round of applause. Yeah, thank you. Awesome, awesome job, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me start off 2025. This is great. Love
Oh,
I just love it. It's great.
yeah. Well, we'll hope to have you back again.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, guys.